Picture the most ordinary backyard on your street, a small patch of lawn, a few raised beds, and several potted plants lined up neatly on a bench beside the fence. Nothing looks unusual, and most neighbors would walk past without giving it a second thought. But what if one of those pots were worth more than the car parked in the driveway? What if people passed it every day without realizing that a quiet, low-profile business was operating right in front of them? There are no roaring tractors, no commercial trucks constantly pulling in and out, no disruptive noise, and no unpleasant smells. When the operation is kept small, clean, and consistent with local rules, it can blend naturally into the home landscape. From the sidewalk, it simply looks like someone in the neighborhood truly loves gardening. A century ago, this was not a strange or secret way to earn a living. Ordinary families used their backyards, sheds, barns, and small growing spaces to produce honest income. They raised plants, saved seeds, cared for animals, and worked closely with the soil. Then factories expanded. Supermarkets arrived. One by one, these practical household trades faded from everyday life. Not because they stopped creating value, but because fewer people continued practicing them. Today, we are beginning to break that cycle. You may be a consumer gardener who buys new seeds and starter plants every spring. Or you may be ready to become a more independent grower who uses practical skills to build lasting income. Either way, this video will give you a clear place to begin. How can a backyard smaller than a tennis court potentially generate up to $3,000 a month? How can soil, water, patience, and time-tested growing knowledge become the foundation of a more resilient personal economy? Pour yourself a cup of tea, pull up a chair, and let us explore the forgotten backyard trades that are quietly making a remarkable comeback. Section 1. Camouflage as a moat, the law of the unseen. The first rule of a successful backyard microbusiness is simple. Staying unobtrusive becomes your protective moat. Modern zoning rules in towns and suburbs are usually aimed at commercial activities that create constant noise, heavy traffic, unpleasant odors, or disruption for nearby homes. If delivery trucks are stopping at your curb all day, complaints and inspections may arrive before you have harvested your first crop. A small backyard nursery is different. Flower beds, ornamental shrubs, and neatly arranged potted plants are among the most natural things anyone expects to see around a home. Few people object to healthy flowers or call local officials because a hydrangea is blooming beside the fence. When your growing operation remains clean, orderly, and fully integrated into the residential landscape, much of the usual friction can be avoided before it begins. This low-profile approach does not have to end at the back door. Experienced microgrowers often move part or even all of their production indoors. A spare bedroom, basement corner, or modest vertical shelving system fitted with grow lights can become a productive growing area. An indoor setup can operate throughout all 12 months, protected from freezing winters, extreme heat, storms, and sudden weather changes. It can continue producing steady inventory while remaining almost completely unnoticed from outside the home. So, are you running a business or simply enjoying an unusually productive gardening hobby? To a neighbor passing by, you may look like someone who truly loves plants, but behind that ordinary appearance, you are building a small, localized agricultural system capable of producing real income. Section 2. Stacking functions, the art of permaculture. How can you produce a large number of valuable plants in an area no bigger than a parking space? You do not keep expanding outward. You learn to grow upward, downward, and across every usable layer by applying the permaculture principle known as stacking functions. Conventional industrial farming often begins by clearing the land, planting one crop in flat rows, and depending heavily on fertilizers, pesticides, machinery, and large amounts of space. That monoculture model can produce volume, but it also demands substantial land and resources. Permaculture takes a different approach. Instead of asking only what one plant can produce, it asks how many useful roles each part of the system can perform. Rather than treating the garden as a single flat surface, you arrange plants vertically and horizontally. Beneath a small ornamental or fruiting canopy tree, you can establish medium-height perennial shrubs. Under those shrubs, you can grow dense ground covers that tolerate partial shade. Trellises, arches, fences, and green walls can support climbing plants. allowing them to rise upward instead of spreading across valuable ground. When planned carefully, these layers create a productive ecosystem in which plants support one another. Taller varieties provide shade and protection from strong wind for more delicate plants below. Deep-rooted species reach moisture and minerals from lower soil layers, help stabilize the ground, and reduce water loss. Ground covers protect exposed soil, suppress some weeds, and keep the root zone cooler. For example, climbing beans can be trained beside a young fruit tree, while a fragrant ground cover such as thyme protects the soil underneath. From nearly the same square foot, you may obtain a tree crop, a climbing crop, and a useful herb. This is how a small growing area becomes highly productive. You use space more intelligently, conserve moisture, increase diversity, and build a nursery system based on cooperation rather than competition. Section 3. The 30-Year Foundation, Chosen to Last. If you are serious about turning backyard growing into a dependable trade, your physical infrastructure must be treated as the foundation of the entire operation. When raised beds are built from inexpensive, untreated wood, the day they are finished is also the day deterioration begins. After years of constant contact with wet soil, irrigation, fungi, and changing weather, the boards can soften, split, attract pests, and eventually collapse. At that point, you may be forced to remove plants, disturb established roots, and rebuild the entire growing area. A lasting business requires materials chosen for long-term performance. That is why many modern micro-nurseries are moving beyond traditional lumber and considering more durable alternatives. Untreated pine is affordable, widely available, and easy to work with, but it can begin rotting after only a few growing seasons, especially in damp climates. Cedar is a stronger traditional option because its natural oils offer some resistance to insects and decay. Even so, years of exposure to wet soil can cause cedar boards to weather, crack, warp, and eventually break down. Capped composite raised beds offer another approach for growers who want a more permanent setup. These boards are commonly produced from a combination of recycled plastics and wood fibers. Unlike untreated lumber, quality composite material does not rot, splinter, peel, or warp easily. It also requires very little routine maintenance. There is no regular sanding, staining, painting, or chemical sealing. Well-made composite boards can tolerate prolonged moisture and changing weather while helping the bed retain its shape and keeping the joints secure for many years. Many composite systems also use modular, tool-free snap-lock connections. The boards slide into brackets and lock into position by hand, making it possible to assemble, raise, extend, or reconfigure a bed without complicated carpentry. When you invest in a durable system, supported by a long warranty, you are creating a productive asset rather than a temporary structure. The goal is to build once and direct your future time toward propagation, plant health, and sales, not repeatedly emptying beds to replace rotten walls. Section 4. The Unfussy Green Warriors. Indoor Wealth. Now we come to the inventory itself. What can you realistically grow indoors as you work toward a monthly income target of $3,000? A practical place to begin is with what I call the unfussy green warriors. Dependable houseplants that remain attractive without demanding constant attention. When your growing space is a spare bedroom, basement, utility room, or compact grow tent, resilient indoor plants can become your most manageable starting stock. They allow you to learn propagation, watering, lighting, and inventory control without losing valuable plants after every small mistake. Snake plants, traditionally classified as Sansevieria, and ZZ plants, or Zamioculcas zamiifolia, are well known for their toughness. They tolerate relatively low light, need watering less frequently than many tropical plants, and can be multiplied through division or, depending on the plant, carefully prepared leaf cuttings. Once established, they can remain upright, presentable, and marketable with limited daily attention. That makes them useful for a small grower who cannot spend every hour monitoring the nursery. Growers seeking higher margins often move into variegated houseplants. Variegation creates striking patterns of green, cream, yellow, or white across the leaves, and well-balanced specimens can attract serious interest from collectors. In June 2021, a rare white variegated mini monstera with only 9 leaves sold through New Zealand's Trade Me marketplace for 27,100 New Zealand dollars, which was approximately 19,000 US dollars at the time. That extraordinary sale worked out to more than $3,000 per leaf. That price was a record-setting exception, not a normal expectation. Even so, desirable variegated plants such as Monstera albo and Thai Constellation have commanded premium prices, especially when supply is limited and the plant has healthy roots, stable coloring, and attractive leaf patterns. The propagation model is straightforward. You begin with one healthy mother plant, showing strong growth and balanced variegation. As it matures, you take clean cuttings at suitable nodes, root them carefully, and sell the established young plants. The mother plant continues growing, allowing you to repeat the process over time. A single well-organized grow tent can hold multiple mother plants and propagation trays, transforming a quiet corner of the home into compact, renewable, high-value inventory. Section 5. The Show-Stopping Shrub Multipliers, Outdoor Landscape Gold. If you prefer working outdoors among raised beds and garden rows, your attention should turn toward landscape shrubs and hardy perennials with steady demand. Landscapers, home builders, and homeowners continually need healthy, established plants for hedges, property borders, foundation plantings, and curb appeal. Choose varieties that are attractive, dependable, and easy to multiply, and your backyard can become a remarkably productive propagation system. Consider the classic boxwood, Buxus sempervirens. Boxwood is valued for its long life, dense evergreen foliage, and ability to maintain an attractive shape throughout the year. Under suitable growing conditions, a healthy specimen can remain in the landscape for many decades. Boxwood also responds well to careful pruning. Each healthy stem removed from the parent plant may become valuable propagation material. Place properly prepared semi-hardwood cuttings into a moist, well-draining medium such as sand, mixed with peat or another suitable propagation blend, and they can gradually develop roots and become independent plants. Next come the true showstoppers, hydrangeas. These shrubs remain among the most recognizable and desirable plants in residential landscapes. Their large flowers create immediate visual impact, making established specimens attractive to both homeowners and professional landscapers. Varieties such as vanilla strawberry hydrangea are especially popular because their cone-shaped flower clusters change color as the season progresses. Blooms often begin in creamy white before developing softer pink and deeper rosy tones toward autumn. Although these deciduous shrubs lose their leaves during winter, healthy plants return with fresh growth when spring arrives. Do not overlook the daylily, hemerocallis, either. Daylilies are among the toughest flowering perennials a small grower can keep. Once established, they tolerate strong sunlight, handle periods of dry weather, and steadily expand through their underground root systems. A mature clump can be lifted and divided into several smaller sections, each with healthy roots and growing points. One established plant can therefore become multiple saleable plants during the next growing season. By concentrating on durable, long-lived shrubs and perennials, you avoid starting your entire inventory from zero every year. Instead of depending only on short-lived annual crops, you build permanent biological stock that grows, multiplies, and can become more productive over time. Section 6. Soil Blocking, the Air Pruning Revolution. To operate a productive backyard nursery, you need a system for raising large numbers of seedlings quickly, safely, and efficiently. Traditional plastic cell trays can work, but they may also create one of the biggest bottlenecks in the propagation process. Inside a plastic cell, young roots grow outward until they reach the container wall. With nowhere else to go, they often turn downward and begin circling around the base. If seedlings remain confined for too long, they can become root-bound, slowing growth and making establishment more difficult after transplanting. One professional solution is soil blocking. A soil blocker is a simple mechanical tool used to compress a moist, carefully prepared germination mix into firm cubes. The blocks are released directly onto a flat tray, and each seed is placed into the small indentation formed at the top. No individual plastic cell is required. As the seed germinates, its roots spread naturally through the soil block. When a root tip reaches the exposed edge, it encounters open air. The drier conditions at that boundary stop the tip from continuing outward. Instead of circling around a container, the plant begins producing more branching roots within the block. This process is known as air pruning. When a well-managed soil block seedling is transferred into a larger pot or raised bed, its roots are not tightly wrapped around a plastic cell. They are already distributed through the block and can begin exploring the surrounding soil quickly. This can reduce transplant stress and help the seedling establish more smoothly. Soil blocking can produce compact, well-rooted young plants, while allowing a grower to fit many seedlings into a limited area. It also reduces dependence on disposable plastic trays and pots. The method does require the correct moisture level and a mix that holds its shape, but once mastered, it becomes an efficient and professional propagation system for a small nursery. Section 7. The Winter Storage Trick. Defeating the cold. If you live in a region with freezing winters, it may seem as though your backyard growing business must stop as soon as snow and hard frost arrive. Experienced growers, however, use a simple seasonal strategy: storing dormant plants through winter. Elephant ears, including plants in the Alocasia and Colocasia groups, are a useful example. These tropical plants are famous for their enormous sculptural leaves, which bring a lush and dramatic appearance to patios and landscapes. In warm climates, many elephant ears can continue growing throughout the year. In colder regions, frost quickly damages the foliage, and deeply frozen soil can kill the underground structures. Rather than losing valuable plants or carrying enormous containers indoors, growers can lift and store suitable bulbs, corms, or tuber-like structures during late autumn. Begin by cutting back the foliage after the growing season. Carefully dig around the base, lift it without causing unnecessary damage, and remove most of the soil. During summer, a mature parent plant may have produced several small offsets around its base. These young propagules can be separated gently and saved as future plants. Allow the lifted material to dry slightly before storage, but do not let it shrivel completely. Pack it in cardboard boxes or ventilated containers with nearly dry peat moss or another suitable storage medium. Keep the containers in a cool, dark, frost-free location, such as a basement, cellar, or protected storage room. A refrigerator may also work for some plant material when the temperature and moisture level are appropriate, but the bulbs must not be allowed to freeze or remain excessively wet. When spring returns and the danger of frost has passed, bring the stored plants out and restart them. Larger, healthy bulbs generally have more stored energy and can produce vigorous growth more quickly. Dormant storage saves valuable indoor growing space, protects inventory from freezing temperatures, and preserves the offsets created during the previous season. When managed correctly, you can begin spring with more plants than you had the year before without purchasing replacement stock. Section 8. Red Hen App. The Decentralized Revolution. You now have the raised beds, the plants, and the propagation methods. The next question is just as important. How do you sell your inventory without inviting a constant stream of strangers into your private backyard? One option presented to small growers is the Red Hen app. Founded by first-generation farmer and technology entrepreneur Lauren Lovejoy, Red Hen was created as a peer-to-peer marketplace intended to connect small farms, backyard producers, and local consumers. Lauren's path began with serious health challenges. After an illness reportedly left her largely bedbound for several years, she came to value access to clean local food and healthy plants more deeply. Later, while raising rare Poitou donkeys and Meishan pasture pigs as a small farmer, she encountered another challenge familiar to many backyard producers: reaching customers without operating a traditional retail store. Her answer was to build a digital marketplace. Red Hen works in a way that can be compared with platforms such as Etsy or Airbnb, but its focus is on farmers and small-scale growers. A producer can create a listing, upload photographs, describe the available plants or farm products, set prices, and place inventory in front of local buyers. Customers can search for nearby sellers, choose what they want, and arrange an available fulfillment method such as local pickup, delivery, or shipping where permitted and practical. The platform has been promoted as having a broad national reach across 49 states, giving independent growers another way to operate professionally without maintaining a physical storefront. This model represents a decentralized approach to local agriculture. Instead of leaving distribution entirely in the hands of large nurseries and industrial suppliers, digital marketplaces can help small growers connect directly with the people who want their products. Breaking the dependency model. Many commercial garden centers operate through what I call the dependency model. They sell annual plants that decline or die when cold weather arrives, bringing customers back to the checkout line the following spring. They also offer plastic pots, packaged fertilizers, and specialized tools that often support a short growing cycle rather than long-term independence. For retailers, repeat purchasing is part of the business model, but there is another path, becoming a liberator gardener. When you maintain productive perennial plants, divide established shrubs, propagate new stock, save viable seeds, and turn kitchen scraps into useful worm castings, you begin stepping away from constant consumption. You are no longer treating the backyard as nothing more than a lawn that must be mowed and maintained. It becomes a workshop where practical skills are developed, a sanctuary where living systems are observed, and a biological engine capable of producing plants, food, soil amendments, and income. You do not necessarily need acres of land, costly machinery, or a large commercial facility to create a more resilient life. You can begin with a small patch of ground, a few dependable raised beds, healthy parent plants, and the patient growing skills that earlier generations understood so well. Any sales activity should still follow the local rules that apply to home businesses, taxes, plant health, shipping, and neighborhood use. Now, take another look at the space around you. It may be a backyard, a patio, a balcony, or even a spare room beside a bright window. What will you begin growing today? Will you start with one tray of soil blocks, divide your first perennial, or build a durable raised bed that can support your plans for years? Reclaim your connection with the soil, build practical skills that reduce dependence, and create opportunity. The value never disappeared from the land. It has been waiting for someone willing to recognize it and begin. Thank you for watching this episode of Farmyard Care. If this video helped you see new potential in your backyard, support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it with another grower. Let us grow with greater freedom, together.